It was a strange feeling for Lord Eddard Stark to even think of protecting Joffrey Baratheon. The boy was proud, rude, and spoiled, and not even Robert Baratheon's true son. Ned had known the truth. Joffrey was born of Cersei and Jaime Lannister, twins, a child of incest, a false heir to the throne. But when Robert died, everything became worse. Cersei had taken the throne for her son, and with it she brought blood and fire. She had Ned arrested for treason the moment he questioned Joffrey's claim. But before his head could fall on the Sept steps, something unexpected happened. Robb Stark marched faster than anyone predicted. Robb's northern army reached King's Landing in just enough time. They surrounded the city before Joffrey's order could be carried out. Blood was spilled in the streets. Lannister guards fought Robb's men, and in the chaos Ned was freed, not by the small council, not by honor, but by his son's sword. That night, father and son met in a dark chamber deep beneath the Red Keep, lit by torches, away from ears that might betray them. "Father," Robb said, "we came for war, but the boy, Joffrey, I don't think he's the true enemy." Ned looked up slowly. "You saw it too?" "Aye," Robb nodded. "He's just a lad, lost, angry, and blinded by his mother." Ned had seen it as well. Joffrey sat on the throne with fear behind his eyes. His cruel words, his violent orders, they didn't come from his own heart. They were planted there, like poison, by his mother Cersei. The more they looked into the boy, the more they realized Joffrey didn't truly understand the game being played. He was being used as a puppet, a weapon against his own people. Ned thought back to Robert, his old friend. Whatever the truth about Joffrey's blood, Robert had loved the boy. If there was a chance to save him, to protect him from Cersei's schemes, perhaps it could stop the kingdom from tearing itself apart. So they made a plan, a secret one. Instead of killing Joffrey or exposing him publicly, they would try to remove him from his mother's grip, quietly, without blood. Without turning the realm further into war, Robb was doubtful. "You think we can reach him, Father? You think the boy will listen?" "I don't know," Ned admitted, "but I must try. For Robert's sake, for the realms." The plan began with sending Arya and Sansa far away from the capital. They would not be used as pawns. Then Ned asked Varys for help. The spider, always whispering in shadows, was intrigued by this plan. "A strange path you walk, Lord Stark," Varys whispered, his voice like silk. "Most would cut the boy's throat." "I'm not most men," Ned said. "And if you fail?" Varys asked. Ned didn't answer. Days passed. Robb kept the army at the gates, not attacking, just watching. Pressure rose inside the city. The people feared the northern army. Cersei tried to rally the nobles, but something had changed. Joffrey had started asking questions. He asked why his father had died, why his mother lied, why his throne felt like a trap. Cersei tried to silence him, but the boy's mind had begun to open. Then one night, Ned sent a message to Joffrey through a young kitchen servant. A simple letter: "You are not safe, but you are not alone. Meet me under the sept where your father prayed. Come without your mother." Would the boy come? Would he betray his mother? Would he trust the man she had called a traitor? The game was changing now, and in the shadows of the Seven Kingdoms, a strange alliance was forming. One that might shake the very foundations of Westeros. The next night came heavy with silence. The Red Keep felt different, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Ned stood beneath the great sept of Baelor, cloaked in plain brown robes. His sword ice was nowhere near him. This was not a night for war. This was a night for truth, or betrayal. The torchlight flickered across the stone walls, casting long shadows behind the pillars. The air was cold, but sweat still lined Ned's brow. If the boy didn't come, everything would fall apart. If he came with guards, it might mean death. Not just for Ned, but for Robb, for the North. Maybe even the entire realm. Then footsteps, quick, light, hesitant. Ned turned slowly, and there he was, Joffrey Baratheon, wearing a black cloak. Alone, except for the pale sword he carried clumsily at his side. No crown, no gold. Just a confused, angry young boy who had been told 100 lies his entire life. "You?" Joffrey said, eyes wide. "You're supposed to be dead." I'm supposed to be many things, Ned replied softly. Come, sit with me. Joffrey didn't move. His fingers twitched on the sword hilt. Is this a trap? The boy asked, voice shaking. Did Robb Stark send you to kill me? Did you come to finish what your army started? If Robb wanted you dead, Ned said calmly, you would never have left the Red Keep. Joffrey blinked. That was the truth, and he knew it. He took a hesitant step forward, then another, until finally he sat on the cold stone bench across from Ned. You sent me a letter, he whispered. Why? Why now? Ned looked at the boy. Not the crown, not the power, not the lies, but the boy underneath it all. The frightened, furious child who had been shaped by a mother drunk on control and power. Because you are in danger, Ned said. And because you deserve to know the truth. Even if it hurts, Joffrey scoffed. You think I don't know what they say? That I'm not Robert's son? That I'm a bastard made from incest? That I'm not fit to rule? Ned didn't speak. You think I haven't heard them whisper it? Joffrey's voice cracked now. Even the King's Guard. They look at me like I'm a joke, like I'm a shadow of a king. You are not a joke, Ned said gently now. You are a boy thrown into a war you never asked for. A pawn in your mother's game. And you? Joffrey asked. What are you, Lord Stark? The man who almost got his head chopped off because he couldn't lie. Ned smiled faintly. Aye, that's me. Joffrey looked down at his boots. My mother said you wanted to destroy us. I wanted to protect my daughters, Ned said. And your father's legacy. Robert was my friend, my father. Joffrey's eyes narrowed. You mean Robert? Ned didn't flinch. Yes. Whatever the truth about your blood, he believed you were his son. He died thinking that. I owe him that much. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Outside, the sound of hooves echoed faintly from the city walls. A raven flew past a broken window. Somewhere in the streets, a child cried. Then Joffrey looked up. What do you want from me? Not power, not loyalty, Ned said. Just a chance to free you from your mother, to stop her from turning you into something you are not. Joffrey clenched his fists. She says I'm strong, that I need to rule with fire. She wants you to rule like a Lannister, Ned said, voice heavy. Not like a Baratheon, not like a true king. Joffrey stood now, pacing. What if she's right? What if I don't have what it takes? Everyone sees me as a joke, even my own council. I tried to be strong, but... He stopped. Sometimes I think I'm just broken. Ned stood with him slowly. You're not broken. You're just a boy who hasn't been allowed to become a man on his own terms. I can't make you king, Joffrey, but I can help you become one. A long silence followed. Then Joffrey asked the question that changed everything. What do I have to do? And in that moment, Ned saw it. The first flicker of something real behind Joffrey's eyes. Not cruelty, not madness, but the desperate desire to be something more than a puppet. Ned stepped forward. First, he said, you must let go of your mother. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps, loud, armored, echoing through the chamber. Joffrey turned, panicked. Did you bring someone? No, Ned whispered, drawing a dagger now. Just in case. Out of the shadows stepped Jaime Lannister, golden hair glowing in the torchlight. His eyes sharp, his face unreadable. Well, he said with a smirk. What's this? A Stark preaching to my nephew in the dark? He drew his sword. Joffrey stepped back, and just like that, the choice was his to make. The air turned colder the moment Jaime Lannister's sword left its scabbard. Joffrey froze. His eyes darted between Jaime and Ned, uncertain who he should fear more. Jaime stepped forward with that same arrogant smirk he always wore, but this time there was something sharp behind it, something dangerous. You're getting bold in your old age. Stark, Jaime said, circling the room slowly. Meeting the so-called king in secret? Sounds like treason again. Ned didn't move. He kept his body between Joffrey and Jaime. Calm, steady, though his fingers tightened around the dagger in his hand. This isn't treason, Ned said firmly. This is mercy, Jaime chuckled. Mercy, is that what you call it now? Whispering lies into my nephew's ears like a rat in the dark. Joffrey stepped forward now, voice unsteady. Uncle Jaime, stop. He didn't force me. I came here. I wanted to talk to him. When May looked at him, surprised. You? You wanted to speak with him? Yes, Joffrey said louder. And I'll speak with whoever I want. That was new. Ned saw it in Jaime's face too, the flicker of doubt. This wasn't the spoiled, cruel boy they knew. This was someone trying to stand on his own feet. Jaime tilted his head, gaze narrowing. "And what did he tell you, That your mother's a liar? That you're not really a Baratheon? That everything you've known is a lie?" Joffrey didn't answer. His silence said everything. Jaime took another step closer. "Listen to me, Joffrey. You are king because your mother made you king. Without her, you'd be nothing but a little princeling with no claim and no crown. You owe her everything. And what do you owe her, Jaime?" Ned asked coldly. "Your sword? Your honor? Your shame?" Jaime's eyes turned sharp, his smirk gone. For a moment Ned thought he might strike, but then Joffrey stepped between them, pushing his uncle back with a shaky hand. "Enough," Joffrey said. "Both of you." Jaime stared at the boy like he was seeing him for the first time. "You're not ready to lead, Joffrey. You never have been. You're too soft." "I'm not soft," Joffrey growled. "I'm just not blind anymore." And then he did something no one in that room expected. He turned to Ned and said, "Tell me what I have to do next." Jaime's face twisted in disbelief. "You're siding with him?" "I'm making my own choices," Joffrey snapped. "For once in my life." Jaime's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake." "No," Joffrey said, standing taller now. "You and Mother, you're the mistake. Everything you've done in my name. I didn't ask for it. I didn't want it. You made me a monster." That silence again, heavy, deadly. Jaime stared at his nephew for a long moment, then lowered his sword, slowly. "You think you can undo what's been done?" he said, voice quieter now. "Even if you turn against her, the realm won't forgive. The moment they find out who you really are, they'll come for your head." "Then let them come," Joffrey said. "But I'd rather die for the truth than live as her puppet." Jaime looked at him once more, then shook his head with something like sorrow in his eyes. "Gods help you." "Boy." He sheathed his sword and turned away, walking off into the shadows without another word. Ned finally exhaled. His heart was pounding in his chest, but he didn't let it show. Joffrey stood still, shaking slightly, but there was something new in his eyes. Something real. Not fear, not rage. Resolve. Ned stepped forward and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You did well," he said. "But it won't be easy now. Jaime will tell her. Cersei will come down like a storm." "I don't care," Joffrey muttered. "I'm tired of being afraid." Ned nodded. "Then it's time to disappear." Joffrey blinked. "Disappear? You can't stay in the castle," Ned said. "Not now. Not with her watching. We'll get you out far from the capital where she can't reach you. You'll have to give up the crown, for now. But if you want to earn it back, to be a true king, you'll need to learn what it means to rule." Joffrey's lips tightened. "And if she finds me?" "She will," Ned said. "But we'll be ready." Above them, the bells of the Sept began to ring. Dawn was rising over King's Landing, and with it a new war was beginning, not for the Iron Throne, but for the soul of the boy who once sat upon it. By sunrise, King's Landing was already awake with whispers. Servants moved quicker than usual. Gold cloaks tightened patrols. And in the Queen's chambers, Cersei Lannister stood barefoot on cold marble, her green eyes burning with fury as Jaime told her everything. "He met with Eddard Stark," she hissed, pacing like a lioness in a cage. "Alone?" Jaime leaned against the wall, arms folded. He didn't just meet him. He listened. Cersei's hand flew out and smashed a goblet off the table. Wine spilled across her silk rug like blood. "I warned you," she shouted. "You were supposed to watch him, not let him be poisoned by northern lies." "He's not a child anymore," Jaime said, trying to stay calm. "He's starting to see you for what you are." Cersei turned to him slowly. "And what am I, brother?" "The one who made him king," Jaime said, "and the one who might destroy him if you don't stop." For a second, Jaime thought she might slap him. But she didn't. Instead, she smiled, a cold, dangerous smile. "Then let's remind him who truly holds power in this castle, far beneath the city, deep in the tunnels once used by Aegon the Conqueror." Joffrey stood wrapped in a rough cloak, his golden hair hidden under a hood. Beside him stood Ned Stark and Arya, who had returned quietly just that morning after Robb sent her back. She hadn't spoken much, just stood close to her father, watching Joffrey like a hawk. "You're sure this is the only way?" Joffrey asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's the only way you live," Ned replied. "If you stay, she'll control you. If you run, you have a chance to become more than what she made you." "I never thought I'd be fleeing my own throne," Joffrey muttered. "You never truly sat on it," Arya said. "Blunt as ever." Joffrey looked at her, then gave a small, dry laugh. "Fair point." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the tunnel ahead. Robb emerged from the shadows, flanked by a few loyal men of the north. "We have a ship waiting," he said quickly. "A smuggler we trust. He'll take you down the Blackwater, then to Storm's End." "Storm's End?" Joffrey frowned. "Why there?" "It was your father's home," Ned said. "The real one. It's where your bloodline began. If you're to rebuild your name, you start there." Joffrey nodded, swallowing hard. Arya stepped forward and handed him a simple dagger. "You'll need this," she said. "Not for others, for yourself. In case they ever find you." Joffrey looked at her, stunned by the honesty of it. Then he turned to Ned. "Will I see you again?" "If the gods are kind," Ned said. "But don't wait for me. Build something new. Earn your name." Robb led the way as they slipped through the last passage and into the cool morning light beyond the walls. They moved fast, unnoticed. But before Joffrey reached the dock, a cry split the air. There he is! The king!" Gold cloaks swarmed from the alleys, spears raised, horses galloping. Someone had betrayed them. "Go!" Robb shouted, drawing his sword. Joffrey froze, panic setting in. "What do I—" Ned grabbed him by the arm. "Run to the boat! Don't stop!" Joffrey sprinted with Arya beside him, dodging through crates and fishing nets. As the Northmen clashed with the Queen's guards behind them, one gold cloak caught Joffrey's arm. Arya drove her dagger deep into his thigh. The man screamed, fell, and Joffrey kept running. They reached the dock. The smuggler, a gruff man with one eye and a thick accent, shouted from the boat, "Come on, lads! We ain't got all day!" Arya helped Joffrey climb aboard. From the pier, they looked back. Robb was still fighting, blade flashing, blood on his sleeve. But he held his ground. Ned was beside him, wounded but standing. More gold cloaks poured in. Arya screamed, "Father!" Ned turned just once, long enough to see her face. Then the smuggler shouted, "We go now!" And the boat pulled away into the fog, oars splashing, leaving King's Landing behind. Back at the castle, Cersei stood at her window, watching the Blackwater Bay. Her jaw clenched. Her son was gone, stolen from her by the same man she had once tried to kill. "You'll regret this, Stark," she whispered. "You'll regret ever touching my son." Behind her, Grand Maester Pycelle entered slowly. "My queen, the city is in chaos. Rumors are spreading. Shall we declare Joffrey abducted?" Cersei smiled coldly. "No," she said. "We'll declare him dead." Pycelle's eyes widened. "But dead," she repeated. "And Tommen will be king." Out at sea, Joffrey stared at the waves, wind in his face, his heart still racing. "I'm dead now," he said softly. "No," Arya replied. "You're finally alive." And as the boat sailed farther from the capital, Joffrey Baratheon, now a king without a crown, began the long journey to find the man he was meant to become. Storms pounded the ship all the way down the coast, as if the gods themselves were furious that a king had fled his throne. The small smuggler's vessel rocked violently, but Joffrey never complained. He stood at the bow through rain and wind, soaked to the bone, holding onto the rail with white-knuckled hands. Arya watched him from behind, arms crossed, her eyes wary but curious. This wasn't the same golden-haired brat who had once laughed while Sansa wept and ordered the butcher's boy killed. That boy would have cried the first night at sea. This one didn't. "You don't talk much," Arya finally said. Joffrey glanced at her. "Not much to say." "Not the Joffrey I remember," she muttered. He gave her a tired look. "The Joffrey you remember. Never had a choice. Every time I opened my mouth, someone was telling me what to say, what to think, what to do. My mother, my uncle, the council, hell, even the King's Guard." Arya snorted. "So you're saying it wasn't your fault? All the screaming, the cruelty, the lies?" "No," Joffrey said, quieter now. "I'm saying it was my fault, but I didn't know it until now. She stared at him, surprised by the honesty. The smuggler, Davos Seaworth, a man with more sea than blood in his veins, interrupted them from behind the wheel. "We'll reach Storm's End by morning. You'd best rest." "It's not what it once was," Joffrey frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's a castle haunted by ghosts," Davos said. "Your father's, most of all. Storm's End rose from the rocky cliffs like a broken crown, worn and cracked by time. The walls still stood, but barely. Most of the Baratheon loyalists had fled or were slain in the War of the Five Kings. What remained were a few stubborn men, grizzled and quiet, and a keep heavy with memories. The gates creaked open as Davos led them in. "Don't expect fanfare," he muttered. "They don't know what to make of you yet." Joffrey stepped into the courtyard slowly. The wind howled around him, but for the first time in his life there were no servants bowing, no guards lining up, no one calling him Your Grace. He was just Joffrey, and strangely that felt like freedom. Arya stood beside him, arms folded. "So what now?" "I learned to survive," he said. "Without a throne, without my mother." They were taken to simple rooms in the Eastern Tower. Stone floors, cold beds. No silks, no golden goblets. But Joffrey didn't complain. He sat on the bed quietly, staring out the arrow-slit window, watching the sea crash against the cliffs. That night, Davos brought him a single book. "What's this?" Joffrey asked. "Your uncle Stannis kept it," Davos said. "A record of Storm's End's history. Learn it. If you ever want to rule, you need to understand where you come from." Joffrey opened the first page. It felt heavier than any crown he had ever worn. Back in King's Landing, the lies spread like wildfire. Cersei sat on the Iron Throne, wearing a black mourning dress, her voice strong and cold as she addressed the court. "My beloved son, King Joffrey Baratheon, has been taken from us by enemies of the realm," she said. "He perished on a northern plot led by Eddard Stark and his treacherous son." "Robb!" Gasps rippled through the hall. "Let it be known," Cersei continued, "that Tommen Baratheon, true-born son of Robert and myself, shall take his rightful place as king, and any who speak otherwise shall answer with blood." She smiled beneath her grief. Not because she had won, but because the game had changed. Varys, watching from the shadows, leaned toward Littlefinger. "She's made him a martyr," he whispered, "and what better weapon than a dead boy?" Littlefinger replied with a smirk. "Especially one who can't correct the story." But Varys frowned. He knew something Cersei didn't. Joffrey wasn't dead, and the North wouldn't sit quietly under such lies. In the North, Robb Stark stood atop the battlements of Moat Cailin, a raven scroll clenched in his hand. "Cersei's declared Joffrey dead," he muttered to his bannermen. "Blamed it on us. Called us traitors again," the men murmured angrily. Lord Karstark spat on the ground. "Let us march south. Let her taste war again." Robb shook his head. "Not yet. If we move now, we walk into her trap. Then what do we do?" One asked. Robb looked to the fire burning in the brazier beside him, then back at the raven's message. "We show Westeros the truth, far away, in a castle built for war. A boy once known as King sat by candlelight, flipping through the pages of his family's past. He read of Orys Baratheon, who took Storm's End with fire and steel. He read of Robert's rebellion and the cost of thrones, and with every word the boy who had once ruled in fear began to understand what it meant to lead in truth. He closed the book, looked to Arya across the room and said, "I'm not done yet." The halls of Storm's End echoed differently now. Gone were the footsteps of kings and generals. What remained were whispers. Whispers of the boy who had once sat on the Iron Throne, now walking these empty corridors in worn leather, reading history instead of issuing commands. Joffrey Baratheon no longer acted like a king. He rose before dawn, trained with the castle guards until his hands bled, and ate his meals alone unless Arya forced him to sit beside someone. He didn't complain, not once. But Arya noticed something. He was angry. Not the old Joffrey anger, the kind that lashed out at others with cruelty. No, this was quieter, focused, like fire being held in a clenched fist. One night, after another silent dinner, Arya followed him to the castle's training yard. He was swinging a sword again, harder this time, striking the wooden dummy until splinters flew. "That sword's not your enemy," she said from the shadows. Joffrey didn't stop. "Then who is?" "Your mother," Arya replied. Still, he lowered the sword, breathing hard. Sweat dripped down his brow. "She lied to the entire realm," he said. "Told them I'm dead. Framed the Starks. Crowned Tommen like I never existed." Arya walked closer, arms crossed. "So what are you going to do? Hide in this castle forever?" Joffrey looked at her sharply. "No, I'm going to prove I'm still alive. And then I'll make her answer for what she's done." Arya raised an eyebrow. "You sound like a Stark now." He gave her a tight smile. "Maybe I'm becoming one?" Back in the north, Robb Stark stood in a tent lit by firelight. The air smelled of damp wool and pine. Around him, his most loyal bannermen argued. "She lies, and the realm eats it up like a feast," Lord Glover spat. "Joffrey's dead. The Starks are traitors, and now she parades Tommen around like a golden lamb." "We need to strike now," Lady Mormont said. "Before she tightens her grip." "No," Robb said. "Not yet. We'll strike with words, not swords." He laid a scroll on the table. "What's this?" asked Lord Umber. "A message," Robb said. "From Joffrey. His own hand. Sealed with the Baratheon stag." The bannerman fell silent. "He lives," Robb said. "And we're going to tell every lord in Westeros. But will they believe it?" Mormont asked. "They'll believe when they hear him speak," Robb replied. "We're sending Arya back to King's Landing with proof." At Storm's End, Arya sat across from Joffrey, who was sharpening a dagger. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. "If I'm caught, Cersei will hang me. Or worse." Joffrey nodded. "You're the only one she won't expect. You're quick, clever. You know the tunnels. If anyone can reach the Red Keep and leave a message, it's you." Arya didn't argue. She already knew she'd do it. Joffrey handed her a folded parchment sealed with wax. "The Baratheon stag burned into it. What does it say?" she asked. He looked her in the eye. "That I'm alive. That I denounce the Lannister lies. And that I claim my name back, not as king, but as Baratheon, the true Baratheon." Arya tucked the letter into her belt. Before leaving, she turned and said, "You're not the same boy I met in King's Landing." "I know," he said softly. "I wish I'd changed before it cost so much." 3 nights later, Arya stood outside the walls of the Red Keep, cloaked in shadows, watching the gates. She moved like smoke, silent through alleys and guards, past drunks and rats. She found the tunnel Gendry once showed her, a path used by smugglers and spies, long forgotten by the Lannisters. Inside, the keep felt colder than she remembered. Richer, too. Golden silk covered every corner, but it all stank of lies. She left the letter on the desk of Grand Maester Pycelle, right beside his sleeping body. By morning, it would be everywhere. When the message spread, it hit the realm like wildfire. "Joffrey Baratheon lives." The Queen lied. The North protected him. At first, Cersei laughed. Then she saw the seal. Then she read the words. "I, Joffrey Baratheon, denounce the false rule of Queen Cersei Lannister. I name her a traitor to the realm and to House Baratheon. I will return, not to claim the throne, but to restore truth, and destroy the crown of lies built upon my name." Cersei screamed. In her chambers, she tore down curtains, smashed vases, and demanded Pycelle's execution. But it was too late. The realm knew. And in the shadows of the capital, a new whisper began to spread, fearful, powerful, unstoppable. The boy king was coming back, and this time he wasn't alone. Cersei Lannister sat alone in the throne room as the candlelight flickered around her. The Iron Throne loomed behind her like a beast of blades. But tonight, even its presence offered no comfort. She held Joffrey's letter in her hand, her fingers trembling not from fear, but from rage. The boy she thought she had destroyed had risen from the ashes. He had written those words, with her own seal, denounced her, called her a traitor, claimed the name Baratheon as if she were the one with tainted blood. And now the lords were listening. "You should have had him killed." "Sister!" Jaime's voice echoed from the shadows. Cersei didn't look at him. "He was my son." Jaime stepped forward. "He is your son." "That's the problem, isn't it? She stood and turned to face him, eyes wild. He's been poisoned against me, by Ned Stark, by Robb, by the traitors who stole him away and turned him into their little puppet. I gave him everything, Jaime, power, a crown, and now he shames me? Jaime looked at her, and for once she looked cracked, not broken. Just close. He's not the same boy, Jaime said quietly. He's not cruel anymore. That's the worst part, she snapped. He's winning hearts. He's becoming beloved. I raised him to be strong, fearsome. Now he wants to be honorable. That will kill him. No, Jaime said. That's what will save him. Cersei turned away, eyes narrowing. Then we kill him first. Far from King's Landing, Storm's End was no longer just a forgotten castle. It was becoming something else. Messengers came from smaller houses. Baratheon bannermen who had once pledged their swords to Robert. Stannis, even Renly. Some came with hope, others with caution. But they all came with questions, and Joffrey answered them. Every night in the great hall, he stood without a crown, in plain leather and chainmail, telling them the truth. About Cersei, about the lies, about his time in exile. He made no excuses. He offered no promises of power or gold. He offered justice, and slowly the lords began to believe him. One evening, after the hall had emptied and the fires burned low, Joffrey sat at the long table beside Davos Seaworth and Arya Stark. She'll come for me now, he said. My mother? She'll raise every Lannister sword from the Rock to the Reach. She already is, Davos said. I've heard rumors. Ships sailing from Lannisport. Gold being poured into new sellswords. And word is she's reached out to the Iron Bank. She wants war, Arya said. No, Joffrey replied. She wants silence. If I die, the story dies with me. She gets her crown back clean and untouchable. Davos leaned forward. Then we make your story louder. Joffrey looked at him. What do you mean? I mean we gather the broken, Davos said. The houses ruined by Lannister debt. The families torn apart by her greed. The bastards. The orphans. The forgotten. Not just knights and banners. People. Let them see you're not her boy anymore. Arya nodded slowly. Make yourself the king of the unwanted. Joffrey swallowed hard. I don't know how to lead them. Then learn, Davos said. You have time. Not much, but enough. Cersei had no time. Her enemies were growing. The truth was spreading. And with it came a tide she could not stop. She met with Qyburn in the dark of night, in the old dungeons beneath the Red Keep. I want eyes everywhere, she ordered. Every ship, every raven, every whisper that carries his name, I want to hear it first. Qyburn bowed. And if he marches? Cersei didn't blink. We burn the river, the roads, the cities if we must. Qyburn hesitated. Your Grace, if he comes with the backing of Storm's End and Baratheon loyalists, then I'll remind the realm what happens when bastards pretend to be kings. She turned and looked into the shadows. And if Jaime gets in my way... She didn't finish. She didn't need to. At Storm's End, word arrived by Raven. Cersei was marching west, not toward Storm's End, but toward the Tarleys in the Reach, trying to rally new bannermen before the truth took root. She's building an army, Arya said, tossing the letter onto the table. She's not waiting for you to come to her. She's going to strike before you can. Joffrey looked at Robb, who had just arrived with northern riders. We can't wait anymore, Joffrey said. We need to move. Robb nodded. You ready for war? Joffrey stood, his voice calm. No, but I'm ready to stop running. He turned to Davos. Gather every man, woman, and sword who'll ride with us. Then he looked to Arya. I want to march not for a throne, but for truth. And outside, the storm clouds gathered again, thick and black, as Westeros prepared for a war not of crowns, but of legacies. The winds screamed across the Reach as two armies marched, one from the west, clad in red and gold, the Lion of House Lannister roaring atop every banner, and one from the south, flying no sigil at all, just black cloth tied to spears, ridden by the forgotten and the furious. Farmers, orphans, exiled knights and broken sons, all riding under the name of a boy who had once been king. But he wasn't a boy anymore. Joffrey Baratheon rode at the front of the nameless army, his golden hair cut short, his armor planed. The Baratheon stag etched only on the hilt of his sword. Arya rode beside him, her blade needle strapped tight, her eyes always scanning the horizon. Behind them came Davos, Robb, and bannermen from the north and Stormlands alike. They didn't march for the Iron Throne, they marched to bury a lie. Meanwhile, in the Lannister camp near Horn Hill, Cersei stood atop a ridge, watching dust rise in the distance as reports came in. "They're gaining ground," said Sir Meryn Trant, sweating in his armor. "More men join them with every village they pass. They don't even ask for gold, just a chance to fight." Cersei's jaw tightened. "Because fools always follow martyrs." She turned to Qyburn. "Do we still have the wildfire?" Qyburn nodded slowly. "Enough to burn a city." "Then we'll burn a field," she said coldly. "Let them see what truth costs." Jaime stood beside her, arms crossed. "You really mean to kill him?" he asked. Cersei didn't answer. "He's your son." She finally looked at him, her voice a whisper. "Not anymore. That boy died the moment he turned against me." The armies met at dusk in the hills outside Ashford. The field was uneven, the trees brittle, the skies dark with clouds. No horns were blown, no messengers rode to negotiate terms. There would be no mercy. Joffrey sat on his horse, staring across the battlefield as the Lannister banners flapped in the wind. He exhaled slowly. "You don't have to do this," Robb said beside him. "I do," Joffrey replied. "I started as a weapon. I'll finish as something else," Arya grinned. "Then let's kill the past," and the horns blew. The battle was a storm. Steel clashed. Arrows flew. The nameless army struck with fury, with hunger like wolves off their leash. They didn't fight like trained knights. They fought like people with nothing left to lose. Joffrey fought in the front, cutting down Lannister soldiers with precision. Never cruel, never slow. He didn't scream or roar. He just kept moving. He saw fear in their eyes, not of him, but of what he represented. Truth. Arya fought like shadow and fire, darting between men twice her size, leaving blood in her wake. Robb led the northern flank like a hammer, and Davos commanded the rear to hold the line. Cersei watched from a tower she'd claimed for her camp, lips tight, waiting for word. Instead, wildfire exploded across the right side of the battlefield. A trap. Her final play. Green flames roared high into the sky, swallowing men whole, both Lannister and rebel. Screams echoed across the hills. And yet, they kept fighting, even through fire. Even through death. They didn't run, they didn't break. Joffrey's army pushed forward, furious and burning, all the way to the Lannister camp. Inside the command tent, Cersei poured herself wine as Jaime burst in, armor bloodied, face wild. "You lit them on fire," he shouted. "They were mine to burn," she said calmly. "They were your people," he snarled. "They were his," she hissed back. "And now I'm going to end this." She drew a dagger from beneath her cloak and moved to leave the tent. "You're going to kill him yourself?" Jaime asked. "I gave him life," she whispered. "I'll take it back." Joffrey found her in the ruins of the field, standing beneath a scorched tree, the last Lannister guards already slain or fled. He didn't raise his sword. "Mother." Cersei turned slowly. Her dress was torn, her crown lost, her eyes wild like something broken in the dark. "So it ends here," she said. Joffrey nodded. "It always would." She looked at him, not as a traitor, not as an enemy, but as a stranger. "You were supposed to rule," she whispered. "To crush your enemies, to kill the weak. I was supposed to be you," he said. "But I chose not to." She lunged with the dagger, but Joffrey didn't flinch. He stepped aside, caught her wrist and twisted until the blade dropped. She fell to her knees. "Do it," she spat. "Finish it." Joffrey stared down at her, then dropped his sword. "I'm not you." He turned and walked away. She screamed behind him, a sound too shattered to be rage. More like mourning, the mourning of power lost, of lies burned, of a legacy crumbled. Later, on the same battlefield, Joffrey stood among the dead, his sword sheathed. His hands steady, Arya stood beside him. "They'll come for the throne," she said. "Let them," Joffrey replied. "It's not mine anymore." "Then what now?" Joffrey looked to the sunrise breaking over the hills. "Red and gold bleeding into light. I become what she never let me be. And with that, The boy who was once king walked away, not as ruler, but as Baratheon, not crowned in steel, but in truth.